Alright, due to popular request, I will make this video to give you all some tips, I guess, on how to start the split shot character. So the damage now at this point of time is at least 5 trillion, I guess. Seeing the red numbers is a pretty good sign. Okay, but anyways, uh, if you see a damage drop is when Frostfire Rampage drops due to the memories being pretty bad right now. I don't have ultimate memories. But yep, you get the idea. Again, the damage is pretty decent. I'm able to technically clear uber deep space with like the 9 red mods with like 4 deaths probably, like every map. Okay, but it's clearable. Movement speed pretty fast. Clear is pretty good. So this time I'll have a Google Docs in the description where I will have basically like a write up on like things that I may have forgotten to say, or just basically a transcript of what I'm going to talk about now. Okay, so what is this build? So this is a split shot Gemma 1 character. Okay, this build uses the classic conversion for Gemma. So maybe we talk about that first. So split shot is a physical skill, right? Split shot is a physical skill. What we're doing is we're converting physical to lightning. After that, we're converting lightning to cold. And lastly, we're getting cold to fire. So Gemma's trait, over here, right? Converts 99% of cold damage to fire damage, and then fixes their fire resistance at 10, for example. Okay, so you're essentially doing 99% cold and a little bit of fire. Okay, and throughout this whole process, you will essentially kind of double, triple dip on like damage sources, okay, due to the conversion. Okay, that's the idea of the build. Okay, and this is a range projectile skill, so think of all the tags, okay? So anything that scales physical, anything that scales fire, anything that scales lightning or cold, technically all increases the damage um, of the build. Okay, we can start off with, I guess, the helmet. So Magnus Scar is just a lot of damage for strength, because in the end our final source of damage is fire. Okay, so it gives us 10% additional damage for every 10 strength right now for this corrosion. Okay, one thing that you could get on the helmet. Okay, so now I'm going to give alternatives for people who are starting out. If it's cheap, you can get a timid on hit helmet. Okay, so for example, if we go here, actually I can just use my helmet. Give me a sec. So timid, this. Okay, so for example, right, timid curse, you have to deal with the 7%. These are all 7%. This one is 8% because it's mine. Okay, but 7% is fine. You have timid curse on hit. It's a low level timid, but it's okay. Alright, this is one source of getting extra damage. Okay, you can get a timid on curse hit instead of the ring, which we'll talk about later. Okay, for chest piece, I have a video on how I crafted this. Not really required at all. Void embankment is completely fine. Sorry, sorry. And if you get corrupted stats, it's also, I mean, it's quite a lot of stats still. Okay, and of course, you still get ailment immunity if you want to. So I do tend to swap my chest piece for this void embankment when I'm doing deep space. So if I can, I would choose to use the crafted chest because it's more fun with the explode. Okay, but if there's a bunch of ailments, I mean, this is the main source of elemental ailment immunity that I have now. Okay, so just use void embankment instead of this chest. Completely fine. Okay, amulet, nothing much to talk about here. Uh, uncorroded. I mean, it's like 650 is quite okay. Death's Touch, the only thing is just be aware that, again, there's different roles on this. You can have like crit strike. I mean, we want flat fist, so just take note of that. Okay, for belt, Dawn Break with strength is good. Take note of the fervor rating. Try to get it at 2. 2 fervor rating. Comparatively, if let's say you had 60 fervor rating, a 2 rating will give you 30% additional damage, while 3%, I mean 3 fervor rating will give you 20% damage. So you're missing 10% additional damage there. You do not need the blending effects of Dirty Tricks. You can use additional damage to two-handed weapons. It's a lot cheaper, like significantly cheaper. I have to say that Dirty Tricks actually gives a lot of damage. Yeah, it basically gave me I think at that point of time, it doubled my damage. Especially when I'm trying to break into the trillions range. This mod single-handedly, like, yep, it did a lot of damage. Okay, so this really hurts to craft. It's like 4,000 FE. It's probably dropped now due to the crafting materials being cheaper. So it's probably about 3,000 for this, but it's a significant bonus. Okay, it's very, very big if you can get this craft on. Okay, boots. My craft failed, so these rolls are not exactly very good. Rouse is pretty cheap now, so that's nice. Brings the cost of starting this build a lot lower. Okay, now we talk about rings. So if you can get rings with the additional damage from main hand, that is very good. So our weapon is basically the main damage. Okay, is where all the damage in this build comes from. So it's very important to have a good weapon. Okay, we'll talk about that as well. Okay, for this, we have Dex, Pen. I have damage instead of life, so you can see where my survival is lacking. Okay, I have some erosion rest here just because I have like technically, if I can find a little bit or a little bit more all rest, I could cap my rest, right? So if you swap one of these lines for all rest and erosion rest, you can be rest capped as well. But I chose to go for more damage. Okay, as you can see, all the mods here are still T1. Like even my mods here are not really well rolled because I don't really want to reroll away the additional damage from main hand weapons. Okay, okay. One thing to talk about for Dreamcrafts on rings. So Dreamcrafts on rings for this build is very, very big. Okay, if you can get a fist to lightning Dreamcraft, that's a lot of damage. And one thing to note, if you have a minus max ES here, that is very, very good if you are using Void Embankment. So Void Embankment gives you one energy shield, which is really bad, right? Because you cannot use activation medium shield. So I think my Carino was using this last league as well, right? As long as you don't have any energy shield at all, this thing will basically trigger your skill here non-stop. And in general, these are very, very cheap as a trigger with like T0 mods, for example. Okay, so that's one thing to take note of. So on stream, I was pretty happy to hit the minus max energy shield, okay, because it's quite good. Okay, second one. So I didn't intend to get this Timid Curse. Okay, I was just rolling for Fist as extra lightning. But since I did get Timid Curse, I decided to fit the Curse pet into the build. So we are now running double Curse. So again, you're not gonna have the exact same gear as me, and I am giving you a lot of alternatives on what you can get. Right, the Fist as extra damage mods are all very good. Fist extra lightning is probably the best due to how it converts, right? Like Fist gets converted to cold, and then cold gets converted to fire, right? So it's always good to start at the beginning of the conversion in general. Okay. So yeah, Fist as lightning, but Fist as extra for any of the other ones are also fine. Then finally, now we talk about the big bad weapon. So this part, a musket, bow, crossbow, cannon are essentially all the same. The only difference is your MTX that you can use. So I paid the tax and I bought a musket for a little bit more extra FE. So bow and musket I think looks the best. But yeah, okay, if you really want to save costs, I think cannon is the ugliest and it's probably the cheapest base that you can get. Here I have lucky crit strike. You could go the reverse. You could have gear physical damage and have lucky crit as the as a dream craft. So you can mix and match around. But if I were to recraft this weapon, I would start with the sequence first. So this is for, I guess, the rich people. If you were to look at, let's say we look at a weapon. Let's say we have returning projectiles, which I would want. Uh, Sequence. Okay, why is it not? Oh, sorry, this is on. No wonder. Let's do musket. Okay, advanced sequence. So for example, let's say we have this one. I think this should be pretty damn good. Either this or this. So one of these two. So this one on the musket is like 3k. The additional gear fizz is about, this is pretty cheap, I guess. Like 500. This is pretty massive, I have to say. Yep, I would start on this sequence first before crafting, because you can always change the base implicit. So I talked about this in my Carino videos last week. Okay, but you can shift your base implicit, but you cannot shift your sequence. So if I can, I would start on the, what I call it, the sequence first before crafting the weapon, if you can. Okay, on the weapon itself, all we want is physical damage. So gear fizz, okay, not just percent fizz, okay, gear fizz, flat fizz to the gear attack speed, and just additional damage applied to life, some crit damage here. No point getting any base crit on here, because our death touch makes it so that our base crit is fixed at 500. So yep. Okay, so that's for the weapon. Again, if I were to change, I would craft this differently, but at that point of time when I made this video, I mean, just getting lucky crit on the musket was already the cheapest option for me. Okay, to get it started. Okay, after that, I guess we can talk about talents. Sorry. The inverse image, you don't need to have double. If you want, you can just get the medium talents, but then you will remove these two mods here, um, and just take the medium talents here, these two. Okay, so if you don't have this last line, you will remove these 3 points, go and put them into something else, like anything that you want. Okay. Okay, we talk about movement speed. So the reason why I'm moving so fast is we have a Phantasmagoria here with 12% movement speed, and over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 nodes here for 75% movement speed, and you can get this with immune to paralysis and slow. Very, very, very nice for deep space, but I guess it's not very important for anywhere else. For this, my slates are essentially not, they're very, very incomplete, but the most important one is this. So okay, when you look at my slate, you just look at it and it looks like ass, okay? But the main point is we're getting this wilt chance here. So we need to have base wilt somewhere, okay? And ideally this should be chance to inflict wilt. I just haven't changed it yet. Okay, when we're hitting the target, okay, as you can see, the wilt is at the end, right? You can see this. Okay, if you do not have base wilt anywhere, you cannot inflict wilt. Okay, and a lot of the damage multipliers in this build relies on you inflicting ailments. Okay, so that's for the talents. The pedigree wise, you want True Flame. You don't need to have these two. You can look at the list of like all the possible pedigree like states that you could get with damage. Penetrating is just a little bit of extra damage. So penetrating gives me like infiltration. So I do inflict all 3 infiltration right now. So it's just 24% additional damage taken. Okay, but you do not need this. True Flame is the most important one. In fact, if you get True Flame with like the convert mod, for example, like you can free up one corner here, for example. Okay, what else scales the build? So max channel stacks is quite important. When we talk about the skills, we shall talk about it now. So split shot rapid advance makes it so that you get 22.4% additional damage for every +1 to additional max channel stacks, stacking up to 15 times. So max channel stacks equals damage. Okay, that's it. It's just equals to damage. Okay, then we talk about ailment termination, right? So you deal additional damage for each ailment. So we are inflicting every single one of these. Okay, trauma, ignite, frostbite, freeze, numb, wilt. So 6 types for like, this is about 50 something. Yeah, 50 something percent additional damage. Very, very, very good. And scales are dirty tricks as well. Blurry steps for movement speed. Scorch for double curse. Okay, on to this. We're using precise cruelty and we're using 3 focuses here. So flame focus gives us base ignite. Thunder focus gives us additional lightning damage. Ice focus gives us additional cold damage, right? So like we talked about, right, we want to have all the additional fire damage, lightning damage, cold damage, right? Because we're Gemma, we can abuse every part of this. Any increase to cold, fire, or lightning increases our overall final damage. Very, very good. So that's where all the damage is coming from, okay? I tend to make builds that have like a lot of damage and not a lot of survival. So if you are not a fan of dying, this is definitely not the build for you. But if you are fine with like using 6 portal gameplay and just being fast and doing a lot of damage for honestly relatively cheap, I mean, this is a really nice build, right? All you really do is move your cursor around and that's about it. Okay, so and anyways, I'm not sugarcoating anything. This is a very squishy build, right? As you can see, there's essentially no layers of defense on anything right now. Eventually, I will try and solve the defense, or I'll just sort to another character to build defenses easier, like Armor Stacker, for example. Right, but at this point of time, to clear deep space early, I think this is really quite good. And it has been doing pretty well for me so far. I'm enjoying my time. Okay, if there's anything else, I would just... And I almost forgot, let's talk about the packs real quick. So for the packs, if you don't have 2 curses that you want to use, you don't use Poison Omen, you can use anything else. For example, Kitty Express probably works. Yeah, gain 1 stack off. Should wait. Okay, not sure if this one with triggering or main skill. Okay, just use anything else, okay? If you are not using double curse. Okay, for this, True Flame makes our affliction basically, just think of affliction effect as, what do you call it? Affliction effect as damage, okay? That's what True Flame does, to put it simply. And, okay, from here, we get 10.5 affliction of inflicted per second. So affliction needs to be afflicted on the target. So here is some very, very important things that you need to take note of. So you are going to need Mercury Bottle. This makes it so that you inflict 73 affliction per second. Sorry. Okay, look at this. Right, my affliction basically stacks up to like 100 really fast. Okay, if you don't have this, you'll realize that your ramp is like really, really slow. Okay, and realistically in maps, you're not going to stand there for 10 seconds to go and ramp up 100 affliction on the target. So you really do need a Mercury Bottle. Okay, the other thing that you really need is this. So this gives you Acuteness Focus, which is the last buff that we are missing. So this one gives you Wilt. Gives you Trauma base. So you really do need, and also gives you fist damage if I'm not wrong. So yep, Acuteness Focus. The last one can be anything, to be honest. So I'm using Kismet Hunter, but honestly, you can throw whatever you want here. You can use Agility Blessing, you can use this, you can use a bunch. Just take a look at the projectile list, and you'll probably be able to find something there. Okay? Now with that, then I'm done. Alright, bye bye.
荣誉和耻辱都起源于纷争。
就这样而已。有点意思，只可惜遇到了我。这就是火焰重燃了。 你逃不过的。
好好享受这一刻吧，这是冠军应得的荣耀。
不过是蝼蚁而已。 点意思，只可惜遇到了我。你逃不过的。有点意思，只可惜遇到了我。